Standard Bank has made interim leadership changes after Kenny Fihla's abrupt resignation last month. To fill the gap, the lender's Group CEO Sim Chabalala will take on the additional responsibility of interim CEO of Standard Bank South Africa. The firm has also announced that Lungisa Fuzile will take up the reins as interim chief executive of Africa Regions and Offshore. He is currently the regional chief executive for the group's South and Central region. Chabalala says he will work closely with Fuzile as they continue to develop and execute the bank's strategy in relation to its footprint outside South Africa. A KKR-Stonepeak consortium has agreed to buy Assura. The deal carries a price tag of £1.6 billion. Assura is a British healthcare real estate investment trust that has a secondary listing on the JSE. Under the terms of the transaction, shareholders will get 48.5 pence in cash for each share held and a quarterly interim dividend of 0.8 pence. This was the fifth bid for Assura from the consortium and is at a 33.5% premium to the REIT's closing price on February the 13th, which was the day before the first bid was disclosed. The deal also comes shortly after Assura announced that it had rejected a £1.5 billion cash and stock takeover proposal from industry peer Primary Health Properties. The firm commented that transaction wasn't at a level that was sufficient to be recommended to shareholders. Purple Group has had a successful first half. The owner of Easy Equities has posted a near 26% jump in revenue and a 204% surge in headline earnings per share. The firm says this is its strongest half-year performance to date, thanks to improved platform efficiency and increased client engagement. Looking ahead, the company has noted that client deposits are on the rise but not back to peak levels. And so this signals that there is further upside, and Purple Group believes it is well positioned to capture that momentum. Alphaman Resources is resuming operations at its Abisi mine in the DRC after Rwanda-backed rebels withdrew from the area. Alphaman says it's initiating a phased resumption while it continues to monitor the security situation, and that the mine is adequately supplied with consumables and spares to support the move. Operations were halted at the site in March, but Alphaman says concentrate export logistics continued uninterrupted, along with care and maintenance. South African-born billionaire Elon Musk has lost $135 billion of his vast wealth since the beginning of the year. This is equivalent to almost half of South Africa's GDP and is more than the budget presented by Treasury last month. The loss stems from what has become known as Trumponomics, as moves by U.S. President Donald Trump have wreaked havoc on global markets. Locally based billionaires have also been a hard hit. Nikki Oppenheimer's net worth is down $1.2 billion since the start of the year, while Johann Rupert is $498 million poorer. South Africa is considering expanding its flagship vehicle industry incentive scheme. That's to shield the sector from the fallout of the U.S. tariffs blitz. This was shared by Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stow during an interview with Power 98.7. The Automotive Production and Development Program has been instrumental in driving nearly 80 billion rand in investment since 2011. It offers manufacturers incentives to support production and localization. Dow did not go into detail on the support measures, but says his department is in the middle of modeling potential support packages for the sector and other industries to mitigate the fallout of the tariffs. In international news, South Korea announced emergency support measures for its auto sector, seeking to reduce the blow of tariffs on a sector that has seen years of sharply rising exports to the United States. Let's take a look for more detail.
South Korea is stepping in with emergency aid for its automakers as a global trade war escalates. Seoul said Wednesday that it would provide financial support for the industry and offer tax cuts and subsidies to boost domestic demand. US President Donald Trump has imposed a 25% levy on US imports of cars starting from Thursday.
So we'll effectively be charging a 25% tariff, but if you build your car in the United States, there is no tariff.
The South Korean government says its car makers look particularly vulnerable as a result, as they don't make many cars in the US. Officials said it was hard to put a number on how much damage would be done. Among the new measures, the government will provide over $10 billion in financial support for the industry. Taxes on automobile purchases will be cut from 5% to 3.5% until June, and subsidies for electric vehicles will also be increased. The government said it would also seek to aid automakers in efforts to raise sales in developing nations. Regarding Trump's tariffs, officials said they would seek to negotiate a solution. Last year, South Korea's automobile shipments to the US totaled almost $35 billion, or about half of the country's total auto exports. Hyundai Motor said last week that it would try to keep prices unchanged in the US despite the tariffs. Shares in the firm were down around 0.5% by early afternoon Wednesday, beating the 1.5% decline for South Korea's benchmark Kospi stock index.
And drug makers' stocks in Europe and India slipped today after US President Trump reiterated plans for a major tariff on all pharmaceutical imports, and as reciprocal tariffs kicking in led to a further carnage in global markets. Here's more detail in this report.
Shares in drug makers in Europe and India fell on Wednesday. Investors sold off after comments made by US President Donald Trump during an event where he explained why he planned for major tariffs on all pharmaceutical imports.
We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals, and once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market. The advantage we have over everybody is that we're the big market. So we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals.
A range of European healthcare stocks fell to its lowest in 2.5 years. It led losses among other sector indexes in the region's Stock 600. Shares in British major AstraZeneca fell, while rivals like GSK, Roche, Sanofi and Novartis were all down. Indian pharma stocks also dived on Trump's comments. The US accounts for 1/3 of the country's overall pharma exports. Trump has not said when and by how much he plans to raise taxes on pharma imports. He also threatened the duties on Friday after his first set of reciprocal tariffs announced last week exempted pharma products. While Trump argues the tariffs will encourage drug companies to move their operations to the US, analysts and companies have raised concerns about the difficulty in setting up manufacturing in the country. Europe and the US have interconnected supply chains for medicines. The US depends on medicines partly produced in Europe that bring in hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. Official data showed EU medical and pharma product exports to the US totaled just over $97 billion 2 years ago.